All right. Another week, another episode, another big episode today. We have Chiefs beginning their three-peat quest starting this weekend. We have some coaching news that we'll break down. And we have a little game recap of the Broncos Bills. So let's get to it. Let's start with some coaching news as our hits tonight. Mike Vrabel in as the Patriots coach. Shocker. We knew it was going to happen. We just didn't know how soon they were going to do it. They made it official. He talked yesterday at the press conference. Do you have really anything on that, even though we kind of knew where this was going?
No, I mean, I'm surprised it took as long as it did. I think on last week's episode, once we heard Mayo was fired, I mean, they don't do that unless they know they're getting their guy. So, like, whatever they did to appease the league as far as interviewing other people or whatnot, like we said last week, the moment Mayo was fired, we knew it was Vrabel. You don't make that move unless you know you're getting your guy. So, no surprises, no anything. Sucks for Mayo, but I've been a Vrabel guy. I've always thought he was a good coach, so we'll see what happens, but really no surprises with it. We knew it was happening.
Yeah, so I do like the hire. Again, young quarterback, you want to see what his coordinators look like. Rumor is right now it's going to be probably Josh McDaniel. So McDaniel's obviously a better coordinator than he is a head coach. So I think Drake May will be fine with McDaniel because he's not going to be the one really making team decisions, right? He's just going to be the offensive guy, whereas Vrabel will be the head guy. And we've seen what he can do defensive wise with how good the Titans were. They just happen to have Derrick Henry on the other side, so he got a good run with that. Really, the downfall of Vrabel in Tennessee was kind of when Arthur Smith got hired away to Atlanta. So you've got to be able to figure out how you're going to replace coordinators as they get hired away. The other rumor was Robert Saleh coming in to help defensively. I think we're both in agreement that doesn't make too much sense. Saleh has too many options as far as one head coaching positions probably go, and then probably the 49ers being the front runner if he does end up deciding to be a defensive coordinator. But there's some good names out there for coordinators as well. Lou Anarumo is out there, so we'll see. The other news for the coach, which we talked last week, and we kind of figured it was going to lean towards this of Mike McCarthy not being back. Jerry being Jerry, essentially at the end of the day, said two sides couldn't come to agreement, so they mutually decided to part ways. That's just Jerry kind of saying, fuck him. I think McCarthy wanted more years than what Jerry was trying to give. Jerry was kind of probably trying to lowball. Not surprised if that is true, which we don't know. That's just me taking history into consideration here. So your thoughts on Mike McCarthy and where he's going?
Yeah, I mean, you always got to wait until you see the replacement to fully decide if this was the right decision or not. I don't think there's any denying that McCarthy is a good coach. I don't know. The Cowboys, I don't know. They're just kind of a shit show, but I don't know if you can just let good coaches walk out. I think this is one we'll have to come full circle on once we see who the new person is. I don't know how appealing that job is anymore. I mean, we're in a world now where a lot of people realize that being a head coach there means you're still playing kind of second fiddle to Jerry Jones when it comes to anything. And that's not really appealing for head coaches. I mean, you want to be able to come in and run the show, but you have to worry about Jerry Jones. So I'm curious on how appealing that job is. I mean, the roster has talent. Whether they retain it or however Jerry wants to do it is how it's going to go. But you can never say it's the right choice to let a good coach walk. The players there really seem to love him, so they're really going to have to knock the new coach, the new hire, out of the park. So I think this one we'll have to circle back on once we know who the new hire is to really get a scope on how we truly feel about it.
Yeah, and even Troy Aikman said it last night on the Monday night pregame, I guess. Said that, everyone's talking about this being a coveted job, but he says he questions that just based on, so if Troy's the one who hasn't been afraid to say, he's been very open and honest about the Cowboys the last couple of years. The dude's obviously a Cowboys legend. If anyone's earned the right to talk about the Cowboys, it's him. And him being honest, will it piss off Jerry? He probably doesn't give a shit. So when Troy said that, I was kind of like, oh man, but he's not wrong. It's not a coveted job anymore. There's pieces that go to it, right? And you're seeing here in the last probably 2-3 years, coaches turning jobs down just based on situationally. Ben Johnson could have easily left last year from Detroit, but none of the openings kind of seemed like they would fit. And we're to a point now where if the job's not fit, like why would you tie your name to that as your job, right? Why not just go back into your situation where if the Cowboys job was the final job that he had to pick, he's probably going back to Detroit and saying, I'll be OC one more year and we'll go back next year and see what happens. So again, ownership matters and GMs matter. When your owner is your GM, that's when it becomes an issue. So again, like you said, they're going to have to knock it out of the park. Latest talks are Dion bring the circus. Him and Jerry can run that circus together. I don't know how appealing that would be to some of your some of your older veterans. But again, you never know until you get it in there and you see how it works and how it fits out. So hopefully, maybe we might have a decision probably by next week. So we'll talk about that one if and when that comes up. All right, so let's talk about college football playoff. We were 1-2 last week. I think we both kind of thought Ohio State would win. Kind of a boring game to start. It was kind of a defensive game. I wouldn't say that. Well, yeah, I probably would. But then Ohio State's defense, when they needed plays in the fourth quarter, they tightened up a little bit. Jack Sawyer, that strip sack fumble, kind of drove the dagger into Texas. And then I think we were both kind of feeling Penn State. We kind of liked what Penn State was going to have to offer. Notre Dame's just playing really good football right now, and that matters. Too many mistakes. And honestly, watching that full game, Penn State's offense just isn't built to maintain what they were doing, especially if you take out certain aspects of their offense. Obviously, the tight end was able to get his. I still felt like they could have used him a little more. But watching that game, one, you could see it was Andy's offense just based on how they were lining up, motioning. That quarterback, Aller, he's not it, at least for that game.
Yeah, no, it was poor decision making often, but that offense just I don't know if it held true or not. But I did see at one point late in that game that they actually had 0 receptions by receivers. That's hard to win if you don't have any receivers doing anything. Like, even if your tight end is all world, which he is, even if you have a good couple running back, like you have to have a receiver or two step up. Because if they're not, then they know every passing play. You're looking at that tight end. And don't get me wrong, like I'm a force feed that tight end too, but sometimes you have to go elsewhere and have a receiver step up. So
I believe I saw a couple of their receivers enter the transfer portal today.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Like, if I'm not going to have a chance to kind of show out and help a team win, like, what am I doing here? But there were a couple decisions by Drew Aller that were questionable, and I think really kind of turned the tables a little bit. So I don't know if Penn State fans are happy he's coming back or not. I don't think it's ever a bad thing that an experienced quarterback is going to return, but I think I'd be iffy on how I'd feel about that. Just after, I don't get to watch a lot of Penn State games, right? Like, we get to look at the box scores and see their defenses dominate, and we don't really get the eye test before we actually got to watch, and then we watch and we're like, this quarterback is not it. Kind of like what you said. So I know some work to do. I was pulling for it. I was hoping Penn State would win, but they're off. It was ugly. I don't know if there's another way to put it. it was really a combination of good defense and bad offense. So I don't know, kind of a I don't know, it was a rough watch, just because it wasn't like good football with people making plays. It was just like, yeah, Notre Dame's defense is good, but the quarterback didn't really do any favors or apply pressure. I don't know. It's just watching that Penn State wasn't a top 4 team, like, and they made it there. So apparently they were, but just with the eye test, it was bad.
Let's talk about Abdul Carter real quick. The dude kind of lived up to the
One arm.
yeah, dude. Like,
One
he
arm.
would line up on the one side to keep his other arm there from getting jammed, and he was literally beating guys with the bull rush with one arm and or ducking the tackles. We're not going to break him down tonight, but I am super, super excited for after the Super Bowl when we start doing draft previews of breaking down that guy, just based on, unfortunately, Denver's not in position to get him, and the Chiefs won't be either. He's going to be a top 5 pick, probably, maybe even a top 3 pick. But the dude, man, all you need to see is he played hurt. And when he was hurt with one arm, he was just as good as he would be if he would have had 2 arms. So this is a Abdul Carter shout out and how well he did and he tried. So let's turn our attention to the national championship game. Notre Dame's banged up. They're banged up pretty bad. Their freshman left tackle's out. Knapp's out. I think Ohio State's going to eat. I think Will Howard, and we talked about it last week with the Ohio State-Texas game, which quarterback was going to fuck up less. Well, both of them tried fucking up at the same time. But at the end of the day, Will Howard actually turned it on. And I think what really sets this apart is everyone knew about Jeremiah Smith and what he was able to do the week prior against Oregon. Texas took him out, but they were able to get other guys involved. And I think the genius call was right there before halftime, I believe, with that screen. And it was kind of, I think that was the game shifter right there.
Yeah, I mean, if Will Howard doesn't cost them the game, Ohio State has too much talent. With that being said, I mean, Will Howard is very capable of
fucking this up,
like costing them the game. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, especially against as banged up as Notre Dame is, they do still possess a very good defense, a good enough defense to where they can force Will Howard into costing Ohio State the game. But I don't think that happens. Ohio State's rolling right now. Say what you want, momentum's a hell of a thing. And specific, I know both teams are rolling with momentum, but I mean more specifically to Will Howard. That dude's in a groove right now. I have no reason to believe that he's going to shit the bed. There's too much talent. He knows just get the ball out quick to all the damn playmakers. Let them do the work. I think you're also going to see more quarterback designed runs.
Yep.
That's really what he did a lot at K-State. Used his legs. You don't quite see that haven't quite seen that with Ohio State, which it hasn't been necessary. I mean, you're surrounded by what he has. You don't really need to do that. But this is a national championship. He's more than capable of using his legs, and I think you're going to see more of that. Just another, added thing for Notre Dame to plan for. But I agree. I think Ohio State eats. It's no disrespect to Notre Dame and what they've done, but I was telling you when we were watching those games, if you take out the quarterback, like this Ohio State offense has just as much talent as that 2019 LSU team. The only difference is like they had just a lights out Joe Burrow that year. But that's how much talent this Ohio State offense has outside of the quarterback position. I'm not saying Smith and Ibuka will be Chase and Jefferson by any means, right. But it's still a shit ton of talent Ohio State has. So as long as Will Howard doesn't shit the bed, I don't see Ohio State really running into any other issues to make them lose the game.
Yeah, on the flip side of that, though, Riley Leonard, and I think that run game, this is a game it's the national championship game now. So Love's going to actually have to be used. When they used Love against Penn State, I mean, that goal line touchdown he had was absolutely a thing of beauty. Just trucks over a couple guys, gets hit at the 2 or hit at the 1, and then just barrels his way into the end zone. The flip side of this, and I think what can keep Notre Dame in this game, is Riley Leonard's legs. Playmaker-wise, they have them. Not as good as Ohio State's playmakers, but there's weaknesses on Ohio State's defense. Let's be honest. There's Igbenogbu or whatever, the corner, who leads the nation in holdings. But again, I think the run game is going to be huge for Notre Dame this game. I think if Riley Leonard can use his legs when he needs to, then that gives him a small chance. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I'm not ready to go there yet. I think it could be a good game. Just Riley Leonard, again, it's down to the quarterback. We just talked about Will Howard could easily fuck this game up for Ohio State. Well, on the flip of that, Riley Leonard could easily fuck this game up for Notre Dame. So again, it's a chess move. I think both run games could be different, but at the same time, Notre Dame will probably take Smith out, kind of like similar to what Texas did. But now Ibuka, Tate, G. Scott, Henderson, Judkins, these guys are going to have to do their part and see what happens on that. So give me Ohio State 27-23.
Yeah, and I think a good X factor is Caleb Downs. Defensive players don't get enough love and conversation. I mean, we're heading into this game and, we're talking Leonard and Howard and, Smith and Love and the offensive playmakers. But Caleb Downs, he can really be an X factor. Yeah, in the return game and on defense. Wouldn't be surprised if he plays a decent amount of quarterback spy. Just because that is really Notre Dame's best offense. They don't have the playmakers outside of the run game. With that being said, I don't think it's a blowout either. I think Ohio State keeps the game in that 10 to 14 point range the whole time, though. Like, not going to blow them out, but stays far enough ahead. I don't know if Notre Dame has enough to get 23. I think it's going to be Ohio State like 31 to maybe like 16. There's just Notre Dame's going to have to make this that low scoring game. I don't know if you can hold that Ohio State offense back long enough. If they can keep it 20 and below, Notre Dame has a real legitimate shot of making it interesting. I just don't know if a defense in the nation has that with Ohio State. So give me Ohio State like 31-16. Just too much firepower going on to really make this one of those nail-biter classic natties, I think.
All right, well, we'll review that next week. It should be good. The games have progressively gotten better from the first week to I think the games last week were pretty decent for the most part. So now you're expecting a little bit better of a national championship. Not really the seeds you were thinking it was going to be 7-8. It's wild. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, there's two big-time programs. We'll see how that goes. Marcus Freeman getting some love. He interviewed with the Bears. Don't think he'll get that one, but the Bears have interviewed like 15 people. So apparently they're trying to show that they're taking it serious, but we'll see. Let's move on. We'll spend the next few minutes kind of recapping the Broncos-Bills game. Not much to recap outside of the 70-yard bomb Bo Nix had. They got super excited, thinking we were going to at least put up a fight offensively, which we didn't. Defense did all they could, but at the end of the day, when you're on the field for 31 minutes, almost 32 minutes, it takes its toll. I did say last week when we were before we were previewing, one of two things was going to happen. Denver was going to hold their own and possibly win, or the holes were going to show a little too much. And I think at the end of the day, that's kind of what happened, was the holes were just a little too much. And the Bills didn't even do really anything on offense that I thought they would do. I thought they would try to get the linebackers matched up with the running backs and get the passing game going with the running backs. But at the end of the day, they were like, hey, fuck it, we're going to run it 44 times. Good luck. I think the Bills have found their recipe to success in the rest of the playoffs. When you run the football more than you're throwing it, you're putting less pressure on Josh Allen. Now, obviously, that could change, and it probably will change this week when they play Baltimore, and then again possibly against Kansas City. in the AFC Championship game if they get there. But let's talk about the Broncos. They're ahead of schedule. We do know that now. 10-7. You know, a lot of people thought they wouldn't even get 4 or 5. So you found your quarterback. You got your coach. I do challenge Sean Payton next year to be more aggressive. He kind of throttled down that first drive and then all of a sudden just slammed on the brakes the rest of the game. You had mentioned when we were watching the game, obviously, too predictable is what you said. It was run, pass, run, pass, run, pass. You know, that first drive, the run game got going a little bit. Javonte looked really well running the ball. They were attacking the middle, and you made the comment, hey, look where they're going. And they had like 3 or 4 straight plays, and then obviously the bomb to the middle of the field. Buffalo made the adjustments. That's what good teams do. Denver did not. And I think that kind of threw Denver's game plan off. But again, super disappointed with how the game went, but I'm not disappointed with how the season went. You have a lot of boxes that you checked off for the season. You now have a quarterback who played with a fractured back for a couple weeks, which is wild to me. That's another story for it. We won't get into that one, but now you have your pieces. You have your building blocks. You have your offensive lines intact next season. You have Pat Surtain, who got an extension. Now you got to repiece this defense because that's where your holes are on defense. So you got more holes on defense than you do offense. You have holes on offense, but you need to get the linebackers taken care of. You need to find some new linebackers. You need to find probably another corner or safety. And then let's flip to the offense. You got to have a playmaker. These receivers, we kind of broke down the game afterwards. There was the drop by Sutton in the middle of the field right before they still got in field goal range and you missed field goal. Can't have that happen. But you had a bad drop before that. There's too many times where the ball hits the hands and it hits the ground. These aren't bad passes. You can watch the replays and see that he put the ball where it needed to be. All right. You need a running game. You didn't have a 100-yard rusher. You haven't had a 100-yard rusher in, I think, it's like almost 2 years now. So that means you haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher in a long time. So you get a running back and just get you a tight end. You got money. I want to see how the offseason goes. Be aggressive. Make moves that people don't see happening. Surprise some people. It's pretty simple as that. But again, I'm not disappointed in one sense of how the season played out. You know, again, like I said, the pieces are there. You got the playoff experience, even though it was an ass beating. You held your own for 3 quarters. You can't get shut out 21-0 in the second half. You damn sure can't have that 4th down, 30, 40-yard touchdown pass on 4th and 1. You got to play better defense. With that being said, we need to. There's pieces, all right? It's there. What do you think? And do you have any comments before we take the rest of the episode for the Chiefs?
No, I mean, I think Denver did better than most people expected on the season and honestly in the game against Buffalo. I do think the play calling was trying to, I don't know, protect Bo Nix from anything, which kind of confuses me. But you know, once we learned that he was playing with a fractured back, it kind of makes sense, I guess. But if he did it that long, why ease up now? But you know that there's pieces there. Coach, quarterback, 2 most important parts you got. Going to have a lot of salary cap. There's no reason to think that you won't be back and better next year. You proved that even with the defensive players you had this year, you can hang with Josh Allen and their offense for more than half the game. It's not like the Bills did anything special that first 3 quarters. You kind of did what you had to do against those offenses. You bend a little bit, but don't break. You know, don't give them those long explosive touchdowns or anything in the first few quarters. They did that. The defense kept them in the game. I mean, I think you summed everything. I mean, there were some crucial drops, a little bit of play calling, everything of that nature. But at the end of the day, Josh Allen and the Bills and their experience kind of ran away with it. But Yeah, nothing to hang their hat on. I think before the season started, when we were talking about, Denver was predicted that I think the over-under was 4.5 wins. You and I both said that, like, that's kind of disrespectful. We thought their roster looked better than that. And then, we've said it before, coaching matters. That alone gets you an extra couple wins. Sean Payton is in that tier of coaches like Mike Tomlin, Andy Reid, that their coaching alone is going to add 2 or 3 wins to what you should. So as long as those pieces stay in place, they don't fuck up all their draft picks and spend their money irresponsibly or on bad players, there's no reason to think that it won't be a significant 3-team race in the AFC West next year. So, yeah, the final score of the Bills game was rough, but if you just watched it, the final score doesn't say everything. So, obviously don't like Denver. I'm not a fan of Denver, but them and the Chargers and the Chiefs, they're set up to have really fun races for the division for the next 5 to 10 years. And it's exciting. I mean, as long as the Chiefs get the three-peat this year, whatever happens after this year, it's like, obviously we always want to win, but after you make history, it's like, yeah, whatever happens, right? But yeah, I don't know. I think Denver's set up well. You can kind of see some better days ahead after the last almost decade that Denver's had. It's got to be nice, but it goes to show that those experts who predict the over-unders before the year don't necessarily know what they're talking about. I don't know. I feel like 4.5 wins for a Sean Payton coach team is kind of disrespectful, no matter who's running out there on the field. So, not to toot our horns or anything a little bit, but it goes to show that if you just look at it and form your own opinions, that sometimes you can quote unquote be better than the experts. So yeah, I don't know. Not a lot to say about Denver. I do feel like they performed kind of exactly how you and I thought coming into the season. We knew they weren't going to be world beaters, but we knew they were better than a 4-win team. I'd have to go back and I think we both predicted them in that 9 to 10 win range.
Yep.
Spot on with it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be exciting. It's kind of like the KUK State stuff. Like, a rivalry's not that fun when it's kind of lopsided. So, as much as I enjoy always beating kind of the division rivals and everything, it's also just, as a sports fan, it's going to be more enjoyable with it being more competitive. So that's about as nice as I can say. I'm not going to sit here and crown Denver champs and be like, I'm in love with what they're doing, but it'll be nice for them to be competitive. So this has got to be one of the first off seasons Broncos fans had been able to go into and like really excited and really seeing the moves you make, because each move can really alter how much better you get. So good time to be a Broncos fan.
Yeah, we're heading into an off season now where I don't have to scout coaches and I don't have to scout quarterbacks. So that's kind of nice. And we won't talk about we'll do all that after the season when we talk about pending free agents that Denver needs to re-sign, and also we'll do the same with the Chiefs after the season's over. So again, not how I wanted the game to go, but I'm not at all disappointed with how the season went. And I am already looking forward to the offseason and seeing what they do. So let's kind of spend the rest of the episode. We didn't get a chance to talk about them the last couple of weeks, obviously, because they've had a bye. And then obviously the 1 week was technically still a bye, even though they had Carson Wentz starting. Chiefs Texans. I think if you had your pick, this is the matchup that you wanted. Man, they dominated the shit out of the Chargers. Herbert threw more interceptions that game than he had all season. The defense was flying around. I don't know, and say what you want, but we're not going to sit here and compare the Chargers offense to the Chiefs offense. That's stupid. Let's be honest. Texans will have a little bit more to work with or to worry about this week. yeah, no, the Chiefs offense and Chargers offense is just, we're not going to do that. That first matchup, you can look at some of the stuff, but again, that so much has changed even in the few short weeks since that matchup. I was talking to you about it last night. That was the Tank Dell game. Dude was on track to have one of his best career days, honestly. Then that unfortunate injury in the back of the end zone on that touchdown catch that he held on to. I'll give him that. But he's obviously not playing. Obviously, Diggs is still out. They waived Deontay Johnson today. That dude's, man. So again, there's ways that the Texans can do this. It's not going to be easy. No one's going to sit here and say it is. But I think the closer you keep the game, there is pressure on the Chiefs. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course there is. I just don't know if they're going to feel it. I don't want to try not to sound just like a typical fan, right? But the only way the Chiefs feel more pressure is if they put it on themselves. Because 99% of this roster has been here the last 6 years. Another walk in the park type deal. With that being said, though, we're at a point where, and it's not just in the Chiefs-Texans game, like all across the playoffs, we're at a point now, whichever team wins, it's not going to be shocking, right? Like, what's left is good football teams.
Yep.
Good football teams can win anywhere at any time. Like, with that being said, I know the Texans defensively dominated the Chargers. They still didn't do much offensively. So my takeaway is, as long as Patty doesn't have 4 turnovers and give the Texans points and bad field position, I trust our defense to not let their offense do much either. Is there a little added pressure from the outside noise and maybe even in the locker room about the three-peat? Maybe. I think that was like the first thing out of the people, Chiefs players' mouths after they won it last year. Like they were all over the Raiders field talking about a three-peat 13 seconds after that game went final, So, they could add a little bit of pressure to themselves. But if there's anyone that can handle it, it's Andy Reid and it's Patrick Mahomes. I think they've proven that when the times are the toughest or when pressure is at its highest, they somehow find a way. So I don't think quite yet that the Chiefs, I don't know. I don't want to say it's an easy game, but I still think you have a higher level of difficulty and less ease next week, whether you face Ravens or Bills, if you get through this week. So I think the game plan for Texans, don't beat yourself. I think if the game stays close, that actually benefits the Chiefs, just given their track record over the last few years. If it comes down to a possession or so or needing plays late, track record is on the side of the Chiefs. So I do think it'll be a good game. I know I joke all the time, like off air, where I'm like, Chiefs by 50. Truth be told, I think it's just going to be another typical Chiefs game where it's, they scored 24 to 31 points. Texans might hang around and get up to that like 17 to 21 range. But at the end of the day, I think the Chiefs are going to do what they've kind of done the last few years and just find a way to win.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a game that the Texans are going to need some defensive and special teams help. You're going to have to steal a couple possessions, but when you do steal those possessions, you're going to have to get points off of those. I think we kept hearing all weekend during these games, 7s, not 3s. Tony Romo kept talking about, hey, Buffalo can get by with 3s. Denver can't. Denver has to get 7s. Buffalo's good enough to get the 3s, and then they'll squeeze in what they usually do. I think that's similar here. The Chiefs can get by with 3s because their defense is still really good. Texans can't. Even the Texans defense is really good, right? But you're going to have to steal possessions. You're on the road. These fans haven't seen their football team in Arrowhead in a few weeks. You're the first game of the weekend. That place is going to be ready to go. It's going to be loud. You're going to have to get a couple extra possessions. And C.J. Stroud's going to have to take care of the ball, and I think you're going to have to get Joe Mixon involved a little more. And he had 14 carries for 55 yards the first go-around, but that's just based on they were just, C.J. Stroud he looked decent. He was able to hit the deep shots to Tank Dell. Nico Collins had 6 for 70 or 5 for 60 or something like that. So, they were throwing the ball well. It's just obviously we had talked about this after that game in one of our shows that once Tank Dell went down, you could kind of see that took the air out of the sail for the Texans. One thing that I kept reading is, are the Chiefs already looking ahead to next week and who they're playing? I don't think so. Even if they are, I don't think it matters. This team's been getting by on one possession games all season long. They're doing just enough, but now it counts. So you may actually see them step it up just a tad bit more. So I am going to pick the Chiefs here, but I still think that there is a path for the Texans, but you're going to have to steal a couple possessions out of this.
Yeah, and I've mentioned to you off air a couple times that I kind of have to believe that the Chiefs have an extra gear or two we haven't seen this year. I know I mentioned throughout some episodes throughout the season that I thought the Chiefs were kind of coasting, just trying to get to this point, saving everything for this point. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I'm just to stay true to things I've said and that I kind of have to believe. I do think that there's an extra gear the Chiefs offense we haven't seen. Now they've had a few weeks to game plan, actually having Worthy and Brown and Hopkins all out there together, which that can't be overlooked. That's bigger than some people think. Getting a true alpha like Hollywood Brown out there, that alone can add an extra element to the offense, just because that'll put Worthy back in his role that he belongs. You have a true deep threat now, an experienced deep threat. I think Worthy might get to that point in his career. That's just not him yet, but that is Hollywood Brown. So, yeah, and as far as looking ahead, maybe, but I trust Andy Reid enough to know that he's gonna have him ready.
This isn't a young team either. There's veterans all over the field, guys who have been here. So that's why I was reading some of it, and I wasn't buying it. I said maybe a little, but again, at the end of the day, they're still a veteran group.
Yeah, and we can just, that's what we do. We're going to talk hypotheticals. That's what we do sometimes. Like, even if the Texans come out and win, which they absolutely can do, I'm not going to sit back and think it's because the Chiefs overlooked them. It's just going to be because the Texans outperformed them, out-executed. Like you said, they stole a couple possessions or a couple, scoring opportunities. So I'm just going to nix that right now. Like, even if the Texans come out and win, don't take away from the Texans winning. Don't make excuses and say it was because the Chiefs overlooked them. If the Texans come out and win, it's because they came out and earned it. Chiefs are experienced. They have a lot of quality players, coaches, to where if the Texans come out and win, it's going to be because they came out and earned it. And truth be, I think the Texans have to come out and punch the Chiefs in the mouth real quick. That's what's going to have to happen. I think it's going to be one of those where even if it's going to be from the start. Like, if the Texans win the coin toss, I think they take the ball. I think they take the ball, set the tone, hope that they can punch the Chiefs in the mouth and show that, like, hey, we're here for real. Because that's what you kind of have to do. I think the longer you have that an ugly game, an ugly start, I think the longer that goes on, that benefits the Chiefs. They've lived in that for years now. But I just don't take away anything from the Texans. Even if they lose, win or lose, like, Texans earned the right to be here. If they win, they earned it. So no excuses. And if the Chiefs win, it wasn't the refs. Let's just get that out now.
And I will say, I like the matchup. I love the Texans secondary. They're a good group. I think the pass rush is going to be key for the Texans in this. And then to kind of piggyback off with the pass rush being so important, that means you're going to have to make sure that Patrick can't take off. It's the postseason. You even saw it throughout the regular season and his ability to scramble. This is his time, essentially. So Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, get there and get there fast. And then if not, you got to make sure you have that spy that's right there. And even then, you have to make the tackles. But I do love the secondary matchup against the Chiefs receivers. I think this is a Trav game too. it's the postseason, so that's kind of where I think Patrick's going to start leaning towards who he trusts and who he goes to. Yes, he's not fast anymore. Yes, he looks slow when he catches it, but he's still reliable, and he's still going to be the safety blanket, security blanket. So anytime you get into second short, third short, or even those fourth downs, look for 87 and see where he's at, because I think this is going to be a big game for him. But again, I'm going to go back to the X factor of this game is going to be the Texans defense. If you can hold them and just don't let him scramble again. And this isn't a game where I'm not going to sit here and say the coach needs to run the ball. I think the Texans can do what they do on offense. Now, if we get to next week and it's the Ravens or the Bills, that's when I'm going to start saying, hey, don't try to get into what you usually do with the Chiefs. But with the Texans, I think just play how you guys played that first game, right? You just can't turn the ball over. And CJ Stroud had a couple bad turnovers that kind of, shifted some stuff. So again, my X factor will be for the Texans, it's going to be their defense. And then with the Chiefs, we're going to put it on big 87.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of agree with it being 87. 87 is going to get looked at. I'm not going to just throwing that out there before I say what I'm going to say. But I actually think Noah Gray is going to be the big beneficiary, at least this game, and I think through the postseason. Teams are going to, kind of what you said, focus on not letting Patty scramble. They're going to rotate some people in coverages to Travis, probably Hollywood. I don't think you have to worry about that with any of our other receivers. But I think that's what teams do a lot, and that's why we've seen kind of a resurgence from Noah Gray, especially towards the back half. So we've seen even in previous postseasons where Travis has taken over, but we've also shown that Patty will throw to whoever's open. There's times in the regular season over a few years where he does seem to try to force feed, but every time you get to the postseason, he's dialed in. He knows where the open guy's going to be. He doesn't care if it's Noah Gray. He doesn't care if it's well, I don't even know if that dude's alive, but he doesn't care if it's Justin Watson. Like, he's going to read the defense, see where it's open. Travis is still going to be that guy in crucial moments, crucial downs, or in the scramble drill. Like, Travis is still going to be Trav. But I actually think you're going to see everyone being used. Worthy's still going to be that gadget guy. And I actually think against the Texans, Hopkins is going to be the leading receiver. Because I do think Stingley goes over Hollywood Brown. So we'll still take our shot. Patrick and Andy ain't scared of nobody, so they'll still do their thing. But I still think you're going to see, and you saw a lot of that towards the end of the year where Patrick actually started trusting kind of those back shoulder fades, kind of those contested catches to D-Hop. I think you're going to see a little bit more of that, just because he is going to have to get it out quick. You're not going to have time to let routes develop, so you're going to have to throw some contested catches, some back shoulder fades, because Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter are, I don't have time to think, but they got to be one of the best pass rushing duos in the NFL.
Yeah, they were definitely were top three. Maybe they were even number two. I think Benito and Cooper were there too, but they were up there with those guys.
Yeah, so you're going to have some of those back shoulder fades, one-on-one contested throws. We saw the Chiefs kind of preparing for that towards the end of the season. Patrick and Andy have never done that. They've never been we're just going to throw a jump ball, we're going to do back shoulder fades. That's never been their game. But you saw them start to pull that into the game plan a little more as the season went on, especially after D-Hop. So I do think there's some elements, there's some plays to be made for both teams, because we're talking one-on-one jump balls. We'd like to think D-Hop's going to win it, but that's also an opportunity for the defender to make a play. So that's just where we're at. We're in the playoffs. It's going to come down to people making plays. As a Chiefs fan, just seeing it year after year, game after game, I have to believe the Chiefs will make more. But it's really going to come down to what you said, just who can make the plays, who can limit the bad plays, and who can capitalize, who can steal a possession. All the little shit, it matters more now than ever. It would be cool. I can say it. I think I say it every time. really doesn't happen. It would be really awesome if the Chiefs did the whole run it 44 times effectively and do that. It'd be cool if we can do that just to make it easier on our tackles. If that happens, I think the Chiefs absolutely win. If Chiefs are running the ball 44 times, the team they're playing has no shot. Let's be honest. With that being said, I do think it's going to be a great game. I believe in D'Amico Ryans. I do believe their defense is good enough to hang around. Yeah, I don't know. I could be biased, but I think it'll be the best game of the weekend.
And I think you brought up a good point with now you have Pacheco back, obviously, but you have Kareem Hunt. Why not use those guys? There could be times where maybe you need to give your defense a breather. Maybe Andy does run. Maybe you get one of those big long drives. Maybe you get the ball back with about 8 minutes to go before halftime, and you want to, hey, let's milk this bad boy down. So then you run. Those are the key moments that Andy has seemed to be getting a little bit better with the last few years in the playoffs. Run when they need to, but then, he's also been the one in the fourth quarter up by, 6. Hey, I'm gonna
Chuck.
We're gunning, boys. We're gonna throw, and you stop the clock, and you're like, what is Andy doing right now? Like, yeah, man, we get it. You got all these toys, but you got to be smart. So, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did try to get Pacheco and Hunt or one or the other kind of going with that. I think it is going to be I think the AFC games are going to be rock solid. NFC, I'm still up in the air on how the NFC games go. So let's start there. Let's make game picks. Let's start with the Lions Commanders. Big win for Jaden Daniels and crew. Dude, he's the real deal. He's ice cold, making plays when he needs to. It sucks because we were really kind of hoping for Baker and those guys. But at the end of the day, Jaden Daniels is the real deal. Do they have enough to go into Detroit and get a dub? I say no. But I do think they keep it respectable. I do think give me the Lions by 6.
I do think the Commanders have enough. I just don't think it will be enough. I want to sit here because I do. I like Jaden Daniels. I like Dan Quinn. I like what they're doing. But if I have to just be honest about what my gut's saying, I think the Lions are about to come out and just absolutely fucking obliterate the Commanders.
It's setting up that way.
And this is no disrespect to David Montgomery, but that offense is better with Gibbs being the primary most used running back.
And he did get a full practice in today.
Yeah, which no disrespect to Montgomery and what he brings to the table and what they do together, but I actually think that offense is a little bit better when Gibbs is the guy getting 25 plus touches by himself. I don't know, man. The Lions, even if their defense struggles a little bit, I have no doubt that the Lions can just come out and put up 42, which is really you're just asking your defense to come get one stop, one turnover, a couple stops or a turnover or something, and then your offense will handle the rest. I mean, crazy shit's happened to where, they could come shit the bed. I mean,
dude, Detroit's about to be fucking the loudest place on earth this weekend. And that's not, and that's, Kansas City obviously will be loud too, but Detroit's about to be, whoo.
And it's no disrespect to the Commanders, right? Like, I like what they're doing. I like what they have, but if this Lions offense comes out and they're even a fraction as clean as they just have been, there's not many teams that will just beat them.
And talk about being ahead of schedule too. We talked about Denver earlier being ahead of schedule. We said before the season that the Commanders were probably still 2 or 3 years away. Here they come out 12 wins, and let's be honest, they have a chance here to win this game.
They have the formula because they have a quarterback and run game with the quarterback that can minimize the amount of possessions the Lions get. And I think I mentioned this. I don't remember if it was a Chiefs game or not, but when you have a run game and you can sustain drives, that doesn't only limit what the other offense can do, but it makes it harder for it to get into a rhythm. If your possessions are limited, I mean, if you limit possessions and you come out and the first couple drives the Lions have, the Commanders are able to kind of stifle them and not let them get in the rhythm and then continue to sustain drives, which they can. They have. That's why I said they have what it takes to make this real interesting. My gut feeling just says it's not going to be enough, but you're not wrong. They have what it takes. And then if you start creeping up on the run game, there's not a better contested ball receiver in the NFL than Terry. I'm not saying he's the best receiver, but he is the best contested catch receiver.
And homeboy deserves this.
He does. The most under. I still think it's Mike Evans.
It's still Mike Evans.
Terry McLaurin is in that same boat with like the most underappreciated, like him and Mike Evans are both one of the best, most consistent receivers in the NFL that never get talked about. The homeboy's gone through a lot of ups and downs with that fucking organization. Yeah. He does deserve this. So like, as I may think that they don't have enough, but they have what it takes to make that game real interesting for a very long time. I don't think it's going to happen, but they do have it, especially if they get that read option game going. Their run game gets it. Lions are still kind of thin defensively. Let's be honest. Yep. Like they get a couple people back, but they're still banged up. This could be an interesting game. It could be. I don't think it is, but it could be. And that would be wild.
Two head coaches that know how to get their boys fired up too. So
I saw one where they said this was about to be a full-fledged Madden game. No punts, no field goals. Everything's going for it as long as it's shorter than 4th and 10. Like, it's just going to be a Madden vibe.
That's what setting that shit up the other night. He kept going for it on 4th down. We were like, why just take the points? Just take the points. And then they still get the win. So we'll both take the Lions in this one. Again,
I hope it's good, though. I do.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
So let's go to the other NFC game. I already know where you're going. Eagles, Rams. I'm going Eagles. It's in Philly. It's a cross-country travel for the Rams. I get it. It doesn't usually affect some, but it does some. Sean McVay is a legend. I'll give it. He's a fucking legendary coach. I'm not a Sirianni fan, but I am a Saquon fan, and I think that's going to be the difference. I know Nakobe Dean out. That's a huge loss for Philly. But at the end of the day, I'm still taking Philly, but I think this one's going to be fairly close as well. And it also wouldn't surprise me if the Rams went in there and just did what they did last night.
Yeah, I think just with watching that Eagles game, like I'm still not confident in their passing game. Saquon is good enough to win it himself, but we're in the playoffs now. You got to have a little bit of fear of running and passing, and right now their passing game still looks like it has for most of the season. I think I mentioned last week, though, I still think the Rams are one of the teams you just don't want to face.
The true wild card.
And it starts with what you just said, McVay. And if McVay has all his toys with Stafford and Williams and Kupp and Nakua, it's a team I wouldn't want to face. And right now, I know it's cross country, it's whatever, but if you remove Patty from the board, there's not another quarterback in the league I want in a situation like that than Matt Stafford. Dude's fucking tough as nails. He's battle tested. There's not anything he hasn't seen. I think as long as the Rams offensive line can protect him enough, because Eagles D-line is dominant. I don't give a shit what you say. As long as they can protect, not great, but just well enough, I actually think the Rams get an easy win. So it's I think easy win for the Rams unless that Eagles defensive line dominates, then the Rams have no shot. But I believe that I don't know. I trust McVay and Stafford just as much as I would Andy and Patty. And they're fully healthy. You can question why Sean McVay rested his starters week 18, but it's because his mindset is the same that I have right now. I'll take my dudes in any situation as long as the main point is I have my dudes. And that's all he needs. So I'm a big Rams believer. I'm a big Stafford believer. And I agree with you. McVay's a fucking legend. Hell of a coach. Question his week 18 decision all you want, but he's going to be laughing his way to an NFC championship game.
Woo! That'd be wild. It really would. But I like the defense and how the Rams defense has looked pretty much the back half of the season, honestly. Jared Verse, Fisk, those guys, they've been, man, Jared Verse was a steal. I mean, let's just call it what it is. He was a steal. I think the Rams defense, again, here could be the difference. especially if you can isolate and you can shut Barkley down and make Jalen Hurts beat you with his legs and or make him throw more than 15, 20 times.
Yeah,
Then there's a
and let's
recipe
be honest,
there.
Hurts in that passing game can absolutely show up at any time. Like
Yes,
the weapons and stuff
yes.
is there. Like they can show up at any time. I'm just saying I haven't seen anything like they had those couple games here and there where they're like, yeah, see, nothing's wrong with our passing game, and then they went back and
They're
did
gonna
shit.
have to have some explosives this one. That's not just Saquon runs. You're gonna have to hit
Yeah,
AJ deep. You're gonna have to hit Devontae Smith deep. You're gonna you can't just
Dallas Goddard.
you're gonna have to do something. And this is one that could it can turn out to be in the 30s maybe. Who knows? It really just depends. But I'm taking home team here. Again, I think Saquon still can carry this team. Um, and again, the defense for Philly is just maybe a little too tough.
Yeah, nope. And I mean, Philly is a great team. Like a few weeks from now, none of us would be surprised if they're the ones going to the Super Bowl. Like they are that good. They do have that kind of talent, that kind of experience, and like you said, they have Saquon. I'm just one of those that I'm not going to ever bet against Stafford and McVay, and that's kind of what this situation is. They have all their dudes. I know Kyron Williams isn't Saquon, but he can put up just as good of numbers. Like he is a good running back. He's a great running back, so he's also a good X factor, someone who can kind of control the game with the Rams. So it's one of those not going to again, like I said, we're in the playoffs. It's not going to be a surprise if any team wins any of these games. Like Commanders beating the Lions would probably be the biggest surprise, but then we're still at a point where any of these teams win, not that big of a surprise. But I'm never not going to pick Stafford and McVay unless it's in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, and it's just like, what's up? But yeah, I don't know. Give me Stafford and McVay 7 days a week, specifically this week.
Let's hop over to the AFC real quick. Buffalo, Baltimore.
That's a fucking wild one, man.
This is going to be a slugfest, slobber knock. Whoever throws the ball the least amount of times probably wins. I think again, and we keep talking about who the quarterback who fucks up the least amount, and I think that's fair here. There's absolutely zero reasons why the Ravens shouldn't win this game and run Derrick Henry 25 times. But again, there's also a reason why Bills shouldn't just win this game and Cook and Johnson and those guys carry the ball. Dude, this game can seriously go either way. It started Buffalo favored, now it's Baltimore favored. It's back and forth. Give me the Bills. At the end of the day, Josh Allen, and personally, I think the Bills do have the best chance of beating the Chiefs. And it's not saying they will, but I think the Bills have the best chance of possibly beating the Chiefs. And I say that because I think if the Ravens meet the Chiefs, then they're going to get away from what they do. That's just what the Ravens do. We joked last week before their game that, hey, this is the playoffs. We know which Lamar we're going to get. And he went out and actually balled out. But so did Derrick Henry. But again, I like the Bills. And just because I think they give us the best chance of knocking the Chiefs out.
Yeah, I think I first want to state that I think this Bills-Ravens game is actually going to be a better game than the Super Bowl.
It's
like, this,
which means we're going to be let down. That's what this means.
Yeah, so I'm a Chiefs fan, right? But the Chiefs are ugly. Like if they win, it's going to be an ugly game. That's just kind of how it's been this year. This Bills-Ravens game it's going to be a fucking slugfest. I'm actually excited for it.
Yes.
Like, obviously, I'm most excited to watch Chiefs-Texans because I'm a Chiefs fan, but like this legitimately has a chance to be one of the best football games we've seen in a very, very long time. With that being said, it's unfair to think of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the backfield together. I've said it from the moment Derrick Henry signed there. As much as I like Josh Allen, even if we say these offenses are even, I think the Ravens defense is just a little bit better, as far as at all three levels. I guess I trust the special teams of the Ravens a little bit more too. Even if we say these offenses are even, which I still got to give the advantage to a Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson backfield, plain and simple. The game can go either way. I think this is going to just be a seesaw battle. It's going to go back and forth. There's going to be plays made. I truly believe this game's going to get into the 40s for both teams. Like I'm a Lamar Jackson hater, don't get me wrong, but the dude can ball on a football field, okay? Like, I wouldn't want him as my quarterback. That's no disrespect to him. It could also be because I have Patty. With that being said, like, he still finds ways to put up points and make plays on a football field, plain and simple. I'm not blind to that fact. Him and Josh Allen, you can even make arguments that they're both just as good, if not better, than Patty when it comes to on the football field making plays. Whatever. I still think the Ravens win. I want the Bills to win, just for the simple fact if the Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl, I've said all year, I want the Bills to be the one to win a Super Bowl if Chiefs don't. The Ravens, I don't know, they scare me. They're smart. Harbaugh's smart enough to not go. Look, it's different to get away from running the ball when you have J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards behind you.
This Derrick Henry, baby.
Harbaugh is smart enough to know that, like, we had Derrick Henry. This is legitimately the reason we brought him in. Yes, we brought him in to be good during the regular season, but we specifically brought him in for January football. And if for whatever reason they go away from it, we will officially know that, like, the Ravens are just going to Raven. But this is the time that they don't go away from the run game against the Bills, against the Chiefs, whoever. This is why they brought Derrick Henry in. Harbaugh's smart enough to know that if they get a little pass heavy at one point, I have no doubt he's going to be like, guys, get your shit together. We have Derrick Henry. This isn't Gus Edwards anymore. No disrespect to him. He's not Derrick Henry. This could also be like the Buffalo Bills and the Ravens matchup in the regular season where the Ravens just smash them.
It could. Honestly, it could.
Look, I'm a Chiefs fan. If the Ravens are clicking offensively the way that they have been for most of the year, there's not a team in the football league that will beat them. It's just plain and simple. The reason the Chiefs have had so much success is because we get them out of doing what the Ravens do. If the Ravens stick to what the Ravens do and what they have done all season up to this point, they're not losing a game. And I'll say the same shit next week. If we're sitting here next week and the Ravens ran the ball 50 times, I'm going to say I want the Chiefs to win, but there's no reason the Ravens aren't going to win this game. So with that being, obviously I want the Bills to win, but my gut is telling me the Ravens, as long as they stay the Ravens, I'm going to smash.
Well, I mean, we could have a huge episode next week, honestly. AFC championship game, NFC championship game preview next week. This could be a massive, massive weekend. Can the Chiefs stay on their 3P quest, or will the Texans knock them out? Make sure we follow us on Instagram, Shovick Sports, and then thank you to all of our new followers. We're getting there. We're getting lots of new followers, a lot of good interactions with you guys. So make sure you find us on Apple, Spotify, and iHeart, and then rate and review the show. And we will talk to you guys next week.